Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. This week, we're doing something a bit different for my birthday week. We're doing a follow-up to the episode with the boys from Whispers from the Void podcast. About a month ago, I did a Talks with the Void episode, and they still had some unanswered questions. So without further ado, grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! What's going on, Caffeinated Crew? I'm here with Evan and Phil of Whispers from the Void podcast. How are you two gentlemen doing this morning?
Oh, very good.
Fucking fab, dude.
Fucking fantastic.
I'm so sorry that I do these in the morning, and I know that you guys are hanging out together for the first time in like a long time, if ever. So I'm super happy that you guys are together in person, being able to hang out with me.
I'm fucking stoked.
I know that we usually talk about coffee. You guys on your podcast, y'all talk more about beer and, you know, libations. So what are you guys currently drinking?
I made us Disaronno and orange juice. Nice mixy to start the day off. I was looking at my Keurig and I was like, I don't think he's gonna appreciate the K-cup Ethiopian coffee.
Hey, at least you've got Ethiopian pods, man. I mean, those are hard to come by.
Yeah, I know.
It's almost coffee. It's like an almond orange juice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, it's pretty.
This is orange coffee, like it's new.
Yeah. What are the notes that you're getting? No,
we have. I have his and hers. So we're rolling.
That's gorge.
Yeah.
I am drinking a coffee from ZAB Coffee here in Montreal. It is their. It's a Columbian single origin called Gilberto Rojas.
Okay.
And it is really good. I've had this one before. It's like one of their usual Columbian roasts, but it's got notes of like raisin, caramel, and cacao. So super chocolatey, traditional.
Nice.
Delicious. So cheers,
boy.
guys.
Cheers, buddy.
Good morning. Since we're not really talking too much about coffee on this episode, let's get right into Whispers from the Void. What led you guys to start Whispers from the Void? What's the story?
Do you want me to tell it?
From what I recall, the story is we were on a Vox Hops hangout and we were talking
about podcasts.
We were talking about podcasts, and I had mentioned, I was like, I could see myself doing a podcast, and then that's when Phil was like, I want to do a podcast.
Because like you said, you were not very good like with all the editing and all.
No,
and I'm doing editing. Coincidence? It is. Is it a coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like our paths were meant to be crossed. So like and we were like, okay, let's do a podcast. Where do you live? Oh, I live in Worcester. Oh, I live in Quebec. So we have to do it by Zoom. So we did it by Zoom, and it's been like, it's our 45th episode that we have now.
Yeah.
It's been like 1 year. We try to do it like to release it every Monday, but sometimes it doesn't happen.
Well, it's just, we do it for fun.
Yeah.
We do it just for fun.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
We're like a fucking Vox and Hops fucking praise group.
Yeah.
Fanboy worship.
Pretty much.
Listening to you guys is so fun because a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are probably a little more scripted.
Oh yeah,
but I love like just the sheer unpredictability of what's going to come out sometimes from the, like some of the subjects. And then the first time that I did hear hot dog a sandwich, it might have been one of my favorite questions I've ever heard asked on a podcast.
Well, I mean, is it though? That's the question. Is
it really a good question? That's another question.
The question we didn't ask is it worth asking?
I live by the rule of like, it doesn't matter the fucking, like, there is no bad question and there is no bad answer. So why not ask anything?
Exactly. I love
Why
that.
not? Why not?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the worst answer you're gonna get is the one you disagree with, I guess. So
Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't do podcasts and stuff and like be closed-minded. You have to be very open-minded.
Exactly.
Because we have guests. You know, we started off with guys that we knew really well, with like the big guys from Hath. Matt, we had Steph, we had obviously we've had you,
yes,
and it was all people we know. But then we're starting to really branch out, and it's like we had Drew from Kanawaki, we had Etienne Polosov, who was a fucking awesome dude, and so on. I mean, exactly. It's a sort of just becoming.
It's just becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And even though we only have like 20% that listens to us on Podbean, I mean, okay, that's good. Like, people listens to us.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. And honestly, like, I got this problem with me that I got a low self-esteem. And I do something and I'm like, I know I'm good at it, but sometimes I just wake up one a morning and I'm like, is it good what I do? What I do good? And I'm like, I see all the statistics and I don't want to get like too sick about it. Mm-hmm. So I just try to breathe and just be like, I don't care if I'm not famous.
Yeah.
I would just do it for fun. That's the goal of it.
I think that's the healthiest way to go about doing something like this.
And also I do it with a buddy that I didn't know before. And he's my best buddy. He's my best buddy right now, even though we are not in the same country. He's my best bud.
We are in the same country right now, but
we're in the United States.
Freedom.
But it's cool to know that, you know, what Vox and Hops created. Obviously, you were a part of that, and basically what it has branched out and become. It's awesome. And
definitely.
now we do the reviews.
Yeah. I was gonna get into that a bit, but you guys are also part of the Vox and Hops review crew.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that kind of? Was that a Matt idea, or was that a conglomeration of, you know, Jerry and you guys?
That was a Matt idea.
Yeah, it was Matt because like Jerry was already doing like
Brutal Awakenings.
The Brutal Awakenings, and we all love music, and it was like because Evan loves death metal and also I love music and all, but we were like, oh, let's do it like Whispers from the Void. Mm-hmm. We can do it audio like video. And then you got James, Dan, and Jerry that can do it like written. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's how it started.
That's awesome. What is your favorite review that you guys have done?
Oh man, I would say GOG for me.
The GOG, GOG. For me it's Deadwall Reclamation because like the editing, I've been nuts with it. I just gone nuts because I'm a big fan of memes. It's like you can see it. I love memes, and I just put like this guy just doing like whoa, just all over the fucking video. Just all over. You have to listen to that.
GOG was cool because it was a natural find. I went to a show and they opened. Mm-hmm. And I loved it so much. I was like, I have to see what their music is. I talked to some of the guys and they actually had released their EP this year. So that was like cool to not have to go. Because normally I'm surfing Bandcamp for hours looking for like the next big fucking thing, which never turns out to be the next big thing, but I love it. Yeah. So I always bring it to the table. And naturally, I'll tell the other group, the guys in the review crew about it, and then Jerry, Dan, and James are all like, "Yeah, we already heard that." I was like, "What the fuck?" Hell, dude.
That's funny. Whenever I feel like I discover something, it's always like either my friend who's much more plugged into weird ass underground music, or like Nancy will be like, "Oh yeah, I found this." I'm like, "How did you find this? Like, where are you?" You're on Spotify. So yeah, it's good to have those people where it's like, bro, I've been listening to this for like 3 months. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, damn. It's like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. You fucking.
It's a bit the same thing with some of my friends because like I show them some bands that you show me and are like, what is that band? Like Fuming Mouth? What is it?
Dude, Fuming Mouth Fox.
Who's Fuming Mouth? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
Fuming Mouth.
Fuming Mouth
triggered. I'm triggered.
I'm triggered.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I know that you were mentioning about
Matt and all of this coming out of Vox and Hops, but we must give all thanks and praise to the Pod Daddy.
The Pod Daddy.
Yeah.
The Hop Pod. Yeah, Hop Daddy, Pod Daddy, Daddy.
The Pod Hop Daddy.
Hop Daddy Matt.
That dude is a fucking, the grind, the hustle. That guy's incredible.
That's like, I was like, I think I could do a podcast. And then he's like, fucking 3 episodes a week. And I was like, I ain't doing that. No. I might do 1 a week.
That's what happens when you get big, though, is now you're scheduled and now everything is like, you know, all about the podcast and stuff like that. And you put in an effort. Like, one of the things I love about what we do is that we can choose to be like, yeah, we're not going to fuck. Like, we just, sometimes we go whole weeks without talking to each other. And then it's like Thursday, the day of the recording, people are just like, free episode.
What do we
fucking talk?
Just random ass.
Yeah, it's just random. And I talked to Matt about it, and he was like, yeah, you should like maybe prepare some episode like in advance. I'm like, yeah, but it's not our thing. Like, we don't want to be like a baby Vox and Hops. We want to be us. Like, I love Vox and Hops, and we are all big fan of Vox and Hops, but he got his recipe and we got ours.
Right.
And ours is different, and we love it to improvise.
Yeah, just kind of keeping it fresh, keeping it original.
Exactly.
You know, there's, you know, big ones like Vox and Hops, Metal Minded, stuff like that. So, you know, we just try to fucking play around with it.
Yeah, and I realized that we are very like, I don't know if for you, but I think we are mostly in the podcast vein of like Bird Crusher, like Birdcast, just talking about shits and giggles and like for hours and hours. That's what we do.
Yeah, I definitely
With our shirts off.
Yeah, with your shirts
exactly. The machine.
Shirts and the skins. Yeah, I definitely have to prep a lot, or else I'll get into like a panic. I'm really bad at speaking without thinking, like coming up with things. So I literally write out like as much as I can and like go over how I'm going to structure it. So I'm on the opposite side, especially like if I had probably another host where I could bounce back and forth. That's why I'm kind of jealous of y'all, because sometimes I get lonely on my podcast. But yeah.
And have you ever felt like to have your wife on a podcast, like for one episode?
I've thought about it. Well, it might happen. Maybe it'll be like a couple's Christmas special or something one time. Valentine's Day.
News time.
All I want for Christmas
Is you.
Never again. So since it's kind of a special thing, I wanted you guys we can make a part 2 of the whispers, the talks from the void that we had a couple of weeks ago, or it'll be about a month ago.
Good.
But did you guys bring any questions?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we got a song.
We got some questions. You want to go first?
Yeah.
Right.
I got a question about because I wanted to ask it like on the other episode.
Yeah.
Why Montreal? Like, you're from Georgia, and like it seems to be like a good place, but you came in Montreal. Like, it's been like 3 years that you are here.
It's been almost 4, yeah.
Almost 4. So that's my question. Why Montreal? Why people like American or even Australian or so much people that come in Montreal? Why?
New Zealand.
I'm curious.
Irish.
So it's actually a very easy answer. Nancy went to school for like digital media and working in animated films. And pretty much every animation studio on the East Coast is in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
There's some that are like spread out, and we didn't really want to move to California just for various reasons. It's a lot more competitive.
It sucks.
But it's really funny because she got the job, and within a week she had moved up, and I moved 2 weeks after her. Okay. And we had never, ever read or seen anything about Montreal. I didn't even know that French was like the first language of Quebec until I moved here. So I was willfully unprepared.
Yeah.
But since living here, I would say like during the pandemic, I definitely started loving Montreal a lot more because I was able to like take time and breathe and walk around. I did a lot of walking and biking around and like really fell in love with the city and then the culture and like everything that Montreal has. It feels like a really compact and refined version of a large city, but it's just as diverse and cultural. So that's kind of why we've decided to stay here, you know, as long as we can.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That's
Plus,
very-
the
that's
fucking
an
metal,
easy answer.
the metal scene is like the metal and
Yeah.
even the punk scene, like hardcore, I would say it's a bit hit or miss sometimes here, which is weird for me because I'm used to like everybody's into hardcore where I'm from.
Yeah.
But like going to shows here is definitely an experience. Like even last night, the punk show I went to, I mean, the punk scene is thriving here and it's crazy. I haven't been to like a punk show with that like energy and positivity and probably ever. So,
Oh.
Yeah, positivity. Like, dude, the punks that are positive in Quebec, go figure.
it's because
No way.
we have
You're kidding.
You're kidding. You're positive.
well, it's because you have all that free socialized healthcare. It helps. If you,
Hey,
We are
listen,
positive
that
about
helps.
that.
That helps. They're just super nice. You
Yeah.
know, like, what do they have to complain about? You know?
Oh, I broke a arm. Okay, it's free.
Yeah.
But it's not really free because
They're like,
no, I
"Oh,
don't want to
sorry."
go in that talk. But look it up, guys. Look it up.
Look it up. But
Guys,
it make-
Hey, I don't like the regime. Sorta. They're all right, I guess. I don't like them.
I'm an anarchist, but I still want that healthcare. So
Where are you going? I got a doctor's appointment.
So yeah, that was the easy answer.
Yeah. My question is, I want to talk about, you're obviously from the Savannah area. I don't see it as a huge hardcore mecca. So what I want to know is, I want to know about what would you describe your musical background to be? Like, if you had to take all of those things and you had to compound them, that really would describe you musically.
So
What would that be?
So I like grew up playing and I was like extremely church going when I was a kid. I know listeners will already, I've said this like a million times, but basically I grew up going to church and I played drums in church and everything. And then when I found like some of the more alternative Christian music, like Under Oath, Norma Jean, Showbread was another one that was, they weren't.
Skillet.
I did see Skillet a couple of times.
Man, Jesus
but
loves kick basses.
I've begged for forgiveness from the metal gods. But that's basically when I found like screamo and metalcore. That's really what I got into, and so I would say my whole background culminates with like Under Oath and Norma Jean, and then from there finding like deathcore. When I found like As Blood Runs Black and Suicide Silence, that's really when I was like, I need to start a band. Like I want to play, really heavy shit. But this was in like 2006, 2007 to like 2010. So the height of that Warped Tour, like Bring Me the Horizon, when they did gutturals, that era of like
the first of
Yeah,
Black
like-
Dahlia murder.
yeah, like Black Dahlia, when Carnifex and You're Waking the Cadaver had that song that everybody knows that was like, they thought it said shredded wheat, but it didn't. It said really horrible shit in it. But that was like everything. And then listening to grindcore. So it was a lot more like hardcore came later when I was kind of touring and playing with a bunch of different bands. And I found like I really enjoyed listening to hardcore live and the attitude that people had behind it, like the PMA and like positivity. And I even liked aspects of the straight edge hardcore community because I was straight edge in high school, but not in, it was more in like a Christian, I'm like a church youth kid. So, everything that I would say my local scene influenced, because there was a ton of like metalcore, hardcore. And then I honestly didn't see Kylesa or Black Tusk growing up because they were off touring Europe the entire time. But there were bands that played like melodic hardcore and deathcore, like just a ton of that. So that's really what kind of pushed my influences when I was getting into the scene. But Savannah's not a mecca really of anything aside from St. Patrick's Day drinking.
And art.
And
And art,
metal.
yeah, and like that
Yeah.
scat is
And Baroness.
so that, but
Yeah.
that scene doesn't, that Baroness, Kylesa, Black Tusk, they play in Savannah maybe once every 3 years, if that. Like I've seen Black Tusk play Savannah one time, and I've never seen Baroness or Kylesa. So that honestly, like kids listen to those bands, but they weren't even around when I was growing up. It was more bands like Showbread. I'm trying to think. We had a band called A Girl A Gonna Ghost, which was really big in like the Southeast at that time. But it was more bands from Florida, like Evergreen Terrace was big, and they were still playing some smaller shows. Bands like Advent and what was 100th. Those were like really big when I was coming up, and they were still playing like my 100 cap pizza place basement venue. Yeah. So that was really like being a part of a very small, concentrated, but dedicated local scene, I would say is what gave me like the background that I have. Cause it wasn't a ton of gatekeeping. Cause it was like, we'll take what we can get. Like, you want to be a part of this? You don't mind getting kicked in the head? Like here's some bands to listen to. Like, this is what this is about. And everybody kind of looked out for each other. If there was beef, you squash it. So I'm all about creating a healthy scene. That's why it's weird in a bigger city to be a part of a scene that's not as connected in some ways.
I love to, my brother is a Marine, and so he was stationed over at Beaufort, which is like right near Savannah, which is how I've been to Savannah so many times. Yes. So it was just seeing him, but I love to fuck with his friends and stuff. So like they'll be like, oh yeah, you're in the metal, whatever. Then they'll tell me the classics. Asking Alexandria. I was like, oh, sick. And then I was like, hey, you ever heard of this band? And I played it, and they loved it. They were like, this is awesome. What is this? I was like, oh, it's Jarhead Fertilizer.
That's hate force.
They thought it was funny, but I could tell they were like, oh, okay.
God damn it!
This is good.
It's Jarhead Fertilizer. Oh shit.
Yeah. So I was just fucking with them, but yeah, it was fun.
That's fucked up.
The look on their face was just great. Deep Texas boys, you show that to them, and they don't like you. But yeah, it's fucking. I remember being in high school and first hearing like Disgorge, Disembowelment, Entombed, Obituary, Death, all the classics, and then Creator, Bolt Thrower. And then, I was, like, the only one on that spectrum. And then everyone else is, like, metalcore, deathcore. Whitechapel, Somatic Defilement is, like, king. The Saw is the law.
Yeah.
Our Endless War. That was that record. And, of course, the fucking everybody loved their Warped Tour shit.
Yeah.
But Warped Tour was just one of the weirdest, like, conglomeration of, like, music.
Yeah. I remember when Katy Perry was performing on Warped Tour.
It just didn't make sense.
No.
It just got silly at the end of it. In the beginning, it made, you were like, oh, yeah, I understand that. And then, you're like, yeah, fucking Ozzy Osbourne's playing. And you're just like,
yeah, that makes sense.
What is he doing? Is he doing Black Sabbath covers? No, he's doing Crazy Train 7 times.
7 times. Actually, he's performing as a crazy train.
Is he gonna bite the bat again? No. He doesn't do that anymore.
He doesn't do that anymore. He's got kids.
He takes his Adderall and he's a good boy.
He kind of stumbles around on stage for a minute and goes, Sharon.
I saw Ozzy Osbourne play. This was back, and fucking Stone Sour opened up for them.
Yes.
And I was just like, okay. Then, but that Zakk Wylde was there. He had like the original guys when he first went on, and so it was cool. But yeah, watching Ozzy perform is just like, I want to say it's like a master at work, but really it's like watching your grandfather try to take a speech or something, and just like it's just so sad. It's just like he's walking around. He's like not walking, he's shuffling at this point. And he's just like fucking, he'll shuffle to one side and he'll be like, fuck yeah. And then he'll shuffle to the other side, and it takes him a whole minute to get to the other side of the stage. And then he's just like,
he's got the walker there.
And then he's like out of breath, so it's like he's stopping. And he's like,
he's got to take his walker. He's got to get to the other side.
Dude, you can tell that like they had a protocol, because when Ozzy would stop singing, Zakk Wylde would do a solo. So I was like, okay, so they know they have a formula. They know how to do it. Zak's just watching him, waiting to see when his battery just drops.
Yeah, let's recharge that shit back up. So I just have one question for you guys. This is the question that I ask everybody.
Sure.
We're gonna get two separate.
Lay it on us.
We're gonna get two separate answers because it can't be the
Okay.
same. What is your favorite city for beans and breakdowns?
Quebec for me. Quebec City, and it's not because like I haven't like discovered other city yet. Like it's my first travel now, being in Western. It's my first travel in 9 years. So, but my favorite is Quebec because I tasted Nectar Caféologue. I've tasted a shit ton of other coffee from Quebec, and even though we don't have a scene that is very like death metal or very in a style in particular, like there's this scene like this like huge scene like eclectic. We have eclectic scene in rock, metal, and
For sure.
like all the underground stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And for coffee, it's so good too. So yeah, Quebec City for me.
Does
Does it have to be a place that I've been to?
Not necessarily. It could be a place that
Okay.
you want to like visit.
I'm gonna go with a country if I can. I'm gonna go with Brazil.
Brazil.
I'm gonna go with Brazil.
Is it because of
because-
Sepultura?
Well, I would say this about Brazil. Obviously, you know they have their own coffee beans out there, huge in the coffee world. But I would say that their music scene is slowly becoming one of the most loyal and biggest. It was already pretty loyal to metal, but it's becoming even bigger. Like I find bands from Brazil more and more like really good, thought out death metal, doom, black, all of it. And so they have something really great going on over there, which is, it's like a hard scene. And like I said, with Fossilization, Jupiterian, those are just two of the bigger bands in there right now. So I would have to say Brazil. I think that the combination of the both makes it at least top 5.
That's definitely a big one. But yeah, I mean, definitely like
I don't know any cities in Brazil, dude.
there's like 3. I think there's 3 cities in Brazil, maybe.
I'll just say the deep rainforest.
There you go. The indigenous peoples of the rainforest.
Indigenous people are hard as fuck.
They are breakdown AF. They're doing breakdown all the
That
time.
indigenous metal. Well, Evan, Phil, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been such a treat. Really, honestly, I wish you guys all the best. It's been a blast. If you guys haven't, check out part 1 of this is Talks with the Void. It's on Whispers from the Void podcast. It's a bit longer, but it's definitely a lot of fun to listen to. Yeah. And it's always a pleasure hanging out with you dudes.
Dude.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure. Super cool.
Always a pleasure.
Love what you're doing here. Keep it up.
Likewise.
You make me jealous every day.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, buddy.
Take
Catch
care.
you later.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to say a huge thanks to Phil and Evan for coming on the podcast and hanging out with me. Be sure to go and check out their podcast, Whispers from the Void. You can find it on all podcast platforms. I would also like to give a shout out to Rodrigo for supplying the ZAB coffee for this week that I used on the episode. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Also, you can find out more information about the podcast online at beansandbreakdowns.com and on Instagram at beansandbreakdowns. Until next week, be sure to stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up.